Welcome to Weight Loss and Wellness for Real, the podcast where people like you get the practical solutions and support you need to permanently lose the physical and mental weight so you can feel better and live the life you want in the body and mind you want. If you're looking to overcome your stress eating, overeating, binging behaviors, and move to a place of freedom with food and your body, you're in the right place. Just a reminder that this podcast represents my own opinions. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. The content here is for educational and informational purposes only. Please consult your doctor or healthcare professional for any individual medical questions you may have. Hello, friends, and welcome. You are listening to the podcast Weight Loss and Wellness for Real. And today we are talking all about perfectionism. And this is one of my own personal struggles that I have had in this life, a pattern of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors called perfectionism. And if you think you possibly might be a perfectionist, or if you are wondering if you are, or you might absolutely know that you are, this episode is for you. If you find yourself struggling with anxiety, depressive symptoms, mental and emotional difficulties, or maybe you're wanting your life to be different, your body to be different, your relationships to be different than they are, and you just find you cannot get yourself to make the changes needed to make these things happen, then this episode really is for you. I'm going to let you know what a perfectionistic mindset looks like, what it feels like, and how it can be created, how it sometimes gets started. I'm also going to give you very practical strategies on how to start to unwind it so you can start living in the mind, in the body you really want, as well as the life you would like to be living. And just a little note here, remember that if you are suffering from clinical anxiety, depression, or any mental emotional health issues, make sure you see a specialist in this field to help you. These episodes are not meant to substitute for clinical mental health. So you need to head to your doctor, get a referral, and get some help if you need it. Okay, so what is perfectionism or a perfectionistic mindset? And how does it really stop us from making the changes we need to make to get to a goal? And this is any goal we have in life, but obviously for the focus of this podcast, we're going to kind of keep that goal or the example of this on weight loss or creating healthy habits or getting rid of food as your emotional support substance. And Brené Brown, who is an author, she says it this way: perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is not about healthy achievement and growth. Perfectionism is used by many people as a shield to protect against the pain of blame, judgment, or shame. And there is our common feeling, right, associated with those of us using food or drink for emotional support, for comfort, to change a feeling state, to entertain us, to help us find momentary relief. Perfectionism, really on a deep level, it's a way to kind of guard us against feeling ashamed or not worthy or not good enough or not belonging, all those sort of deep core emotional fears. Perfectionism in a person can really exist on a continuum. So you might find yourself thinking, feeling, and behaving as a perfectionist, possibly only in one area of your life. You know, maybe it's just work, or maybe it's your relationship life. And then others of us on the continuum feel the need to achieve perfection constantly across the board in all areas of our life. And here are some signs that you might be a perfectionist or hold a perfectionistic pattern of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. I hope you are finding something useful from these episodes and this podcast. And if so, please share it with someone else in your life you feel it could benefit. This podcast is also now monetized. So if you really feel you are getting a lot from it and want to help keep it going, please go to the episode show notes. You can just scroll down from wherever you're listening. You'll see a description of the episode, and then you will see it says support this podcast. And then there's a link you can click on. You can click on that link, and that's where you can support the podcast. Even the smallest donation, like 99 cents, helps to keep me producing the podcast. And to those of you who have donated, I really, really appreciate the support. I really do appreciate all of you listening and sharing the space with me. Again, just very thankful for all of you. Listen to the list that I am going to go through and just sort of see if anything aligns with you. So, not being able to even begin or start a task unless you know you can do it perfectly. Do you sort of see the end part of a goal or undertaking as the most important part? So like seeing you at that goal weight, that's the most important part, to get to that goal weight. This sort of means that you're not focused as much on the process or the learning as you're kind of trying to achieve that goal or get to that weight loss. You know, you don't really have a reverence or an understanding or insight into how important the process part is. And so if you're really focused only on that end goal, not really incorporating or understanding or having that reverence for the process part, most likely that's that perfectionistic mindset, because someone who's there often will not complete the task, right? Won't be able to get to that end part, even though they're so focused on that end part. Like not being able to see the task as finished unless the result is perfect according to your own standards, right? So you have these most likely very high standards and cannot envision the task as finished unless the result is perfect according to these really high standards. Or maybe do you procrastinate? Often people with perfectionism will put off things again and again because they cannot get themselves to start a task unless they absolutely know they can perform it perfectly. Do you take an excessive amount of time to complete a task that typically does not take others that long? And so to get a little bit more concrete, let's look at some different thoughts that often come up for those of us in a perfectionistic mindset. This is a lot of what I see when I'm working with perfectionistic mindset people, as well as what I came to recognize in myself. So things like spending 30 minutes writing and rewriting a 2-sentence text or email. Maybe skipping class or avoiding a task because it's pointless unless perfectionism can be achieved. Comparing yourself to others' accomplishments that are unrealistic for you, because remember, we are all unique and different. So someone else's accomplishments may just not fit with who you are, your makeup. And with this one feeling, there is jealous or envy of others' accomplishments. Also just things like not being able to feel happy for other people's accomplishments. Things like believing missing 2 points on a test or getting a B is a sign of failure. Maybe avoiding participating in a new activity for fear of, being seen as less than perfect. Hopefully you can see from some of those examples that perfectionism stems from a core fear. It's usually from a deeply held belief, often that belief being that we're not enough in some way, that we have to be perfect to be okay, or maybe that we need to be perfect in order to fit in and belong with others. If I'm not perfect, no one will like me, no one will see me. Or if I'm not perfect, I'm awful. I'm a bad person if I'm not perfect. This is sort of that deeper belief system that I alluded to right at the beginning, of deeply held core beliefs and thoughts that are often subconscious, that we may not even realize are playing out into our thought life and then creating those feelings, which is driving specific behaviors, creating thoughts of perfectionism that create fear and tension throughout our bodies and then drive our behaviors in our immediate life. So it can stem from feelings of insecurity or inadequacy. It can come from mental health issues like anxiety or OCD. It can also come from having a parent who is a perfectionist And so that was modeled for you, and that sort of creates programming in a child that then becomes perfectionistic as well. Also, insecure early attachment can create it. So if you were in a place where there was trouble attaching to a parent when you were young for whatever reasons, this often creates difficulty in the ability to self-soothe as adults. And this translates into having trouble accepting a good outcome as, good. If the outcome, even if the outcome is good, it's not perfect. So if we had trouble attaching to a parent, it's really hard for us to understand that good can be good. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? So a little therapy advice here off the cuff. Kiddos who are often praised for their accomplishments can grow into feeling pressure to keep achieving as they age, which often causes perfectionistic tendencies. So if you are a parent, a workaround here is to simply put in the word effort into your praise. So your kiddo accomplished something great. Praise them for the effort they put in to get to that accomplishment. Use the word effort. It makes a difference in how your kiddo's brain will interpret their accomplishments. This puts them on the path to knowing that the process, the effort is what is most important and not as much as an end goal. It sets them up for lots more of success in life versus only praising them for the end goal or accomplishment. And another little side note here, where perfectionism can show up in relationships. So if you have a perfectionistic mindset and hold yourself to extreme standards and expectations, we most often put then these same standards onto other ones, typically onto intimate relationships. So onto our significant others, onto our children. This is how so many things can go wrong in relationships with a person who holds a perfectionistic mindset. My point, it doesn't just affect us as individuals in our lives, but this type of mindset greatly affects others who we are in close relationship with. Okay, it can come out in physical activities, often individual sports like gymnastics or track or climbing, and that's kind of my world. For me, when I started climbing, it was the best and worst thing that ever happened in my life. The desire to be lighter and stronger and to be better was really a road that led me down a path of heavy restriction with food and then over exercising, which started a cycle of binging and overeating behaviors. And this led to a lot of emotional and mental challenges like bouts of high anxiety and low depressive moments. And these habits were ingrained in me, 15, 20 years, that perfectionism. It definitely can lead to eating disorders, full-blown eating disorders, disordered eating patterns, and exercise addiction. And so this can also come into your eating behaviors, this perfectionism, where you focus on perfectionism with your health. This can lead, again, to disordered eating. You are so focused at being a certain number on the scale or being this size or looking exactly this certain way in regards to your physical appearance. Things like taking hours on what to wear or maybe getting your hair styled just right can also show up in your environment or surroundings. So if you have this need for your house or yard or space around you to be immaculate at all times, this is often where you see people spending tons of time to keep things perfect around them or trying to make others live up to their standards of perfectionism within the house, within the household at all times. So there can be lots and lots of conflict through this. So let's sort of relate these things to weight loss, disordered eating patterns. But again, this whole issue can be applied to any goal or change you really want to make in life, but cannot seem to make permanent. If you are trying to lose weight and you have a habit mindset of perfectionism, here's how I typically see it go down in clients. You look at the weight you want off your body, but you think, I'll never be able to do this perfectly, creating overwhelm. And then they don't even start because they're feeling so overwhelmed. I can't start the task because I don't believe I can do it perfectly. Or I'm going to do this and I have to do it perfectly. So I need to eat the perfect number of calories, or my food choices have to be perfect, or I can only eat these foods. And then the feeling that's created there is deprivation, struggle. And these feelings lead to behaviors of restriction, which eventually lead to overeating. Probably what I see most often, binging episodes for sure, overeating episodes, and then the cycle of perfect eating, which is always restriction in some capacity, and usually both restricting food itself, but also in mental restriction. Remember, we can have just simply thoughts that are restricting that cause this cycle. Thoughts about food that we need to restrict, and then the overeating or eating something not on the list. So now I'm not perfect, or I didn't have a perfect day with my eating, so screw it, and all the things get eaten. This can often turn into that binging habit, literally becomes a habit of behavior, a habit within the brain. It could also be thoughts of, I'm not ready to do this, and if I start now, I'll never be able to do it right or get to my end goal. So I'll start in a week or the first of the next month or New Year's Day. And this is really procrastinating because, again, as a perfectionistic mindset, we're too focused on the importance of the end goal. And this is how that perfectionistic mindset sabotages any efforts for change, even when you want the changes desperately. So remember how we've previously talked in other episodes about that all or nothing thinking, also called black and white thinking or dichotomous thinking. Perfectionism creates habits of thought like this, right? Our inner perfectionist, really gives us thoughts of things like it's either perfect or it's not good enough, right? It's either perfect or we failed. If we didn't get the entire to-do list accomplished, or, we eat the thing we told ourselves we wouldn't eat, we immediately think we blew it. And so we beat ourselves up, feel awful, and then for most of us, drop into that screw it mode and overeat more or overdrink more or try to self-soothe from the awful feelings of guilt, shame that we're experiencing. And this is what kills weight loss or maintenance of weight. If you've already lost weight, it kills maintenance. And it does it really quickly. Here is the fact. It is simply not humanly possible to be perfect at anything. And really let that sink in. It is humanly impossible to be perfect. And if you really take a deep breath and align really deeply with that fact, and know that it is impossible to be perfect and hold that, there is such freedom there. Trying to hold this belief for yourself, or try to hold this belief for yourself as you go about your day to day. Remind yourself, say it to yourself, being perfect is impossible, and because of this fact, there is freedom. Once you move and shift into this belief system, you practice it, your brain gets good at thinking it because of these thoughts. The feelings, emotions that you then will experience are freedoms and emotions, or feelings of and emotions of freedom, relief. And when you have these feelings going on, and if you're working to lose weight or change a health habit, your behavior will be driven to enjoy the food and movement guidelines you have set for yourself. In this space of freedom and relief is where nurturing discipline can actually come into play, where you can make a doable food plan for yourself and really find it easier to follow through on. And you'll find you're just following through on it more and more often. If you wake up in the morning and think, today is a fresh start, and most of us love this. I used to do this all the time. Most of us love new beginnings. We like how the thought, today is a fresh start, makes us feel motivated. But typically this thought goes along with, and I'm going to do it right this time. I'm getting it right today. And when we think this way, we take away giving ourselves credit for the process of what we have accomplished so far, of what we've learned. We actually need failure to get to the goal. And see how that sneaky thought gets in there? I'm going to do it right today. That is a perfectionistic sentence and will lead to that cycle of overeating that we've been talking about. There is no getting it right. There is no right to weight loss or food amounts or types of exercise or amounts of exercise. Perfectionism never includes reality, and this is the problem. Reality with weight loss is that there will be difficult times. There's going to be mistakes. There's even going to be failure. And you need to plan to deal with this to be able to move you through these things and to learn from them so that you can make changes in the future. You can't get these necessary things with a perfectionistic mindset. You're just going to get a lot of screw it mode and overeating. A perfectionistic mindset does this to you. You deviate from your plan for your eating. You have this plan for your eating, whatever the plan is, doesn't matter. You deviate from it, and then the reaction is overeating even more. And this isn't logical, but this is what that perfectionistic mindset creates and how it creates the self-sabotage. It's rarely the misstep or the mistake off your plan that leads to overweightness or that inability to lose weight. It's the eating you do once your inner perfectionist tells you things like, it's hopeless, you did it again, you ate off plan, you do this every time, you can't even stick to this plan, you suck, you failed. Now, those thoughts, let's usher in the feelings of defeat, of shame, of guilt, and you are well on your way to overeating even more or over drinking even more to manage those hard emotions. The truth is actually not this dramatic at all. The truth is this: you ate something you hadn't planned to, and if you go back to plan, you will absolutely make progress. So you ate something you hadn't planned to, and if you go back to your plan, you absolutely will make progress. That is neutral. That is logical, and that is correct. So perfectionistic mindset, we have these expectations for ideal eating that are so rigid and so unrealistic. There is no way you could humanly stick to these things for life. Many of us can stick to them for a while, but you really have to ask yourself with your plan or whatever it is, can I do it for life? If the answer is no, probably not, okay, this is not a realistic plan. Other things that occur is that restriction thinking, right? We talked about the deprivation we create in our minds. So do you feel deprived just thinking about how you should eat? That is that perfectionistic mindset setting you up. So we've been talking about and focused on weight loss, but even if you get this aspect of perfectionism under control in regards to your food, to your movement, that sort of thing, ask yourself if it is showing up in other areas of your life. Remember how it can kind of be on a continuum, right? So if it's showing up in your work life, or does it show up in your relationships? Does it show up in your environment around you? You need everything just so. Even this can really sabotage any weight loss you've already accomplished. So that perfectionistic mindset may be maintaining itself in other areas of our lives. Our perfectionistic part of us is constantly judging that we are never good enough because perfect is impossible. So of course, we are getting the message from that perfectionistic mindset, we are never good enough. And so we are never allowed that satisfaction of feeling really good about what we have accomplished so far. If your inner perfectionist is constantly judging you for your work, your parenting, your house cleaning, your athletic abilities, your health, your weight, this is enough to create an emotional eating or drinking cycle in most of us. The argument I often get from clients, and this is what I also personally used to think and had to really work through, but the argument I get most often about this is that if I get out of my perfectionistic mindset, I won't have anything driving me. I'm just going to start settling for being a failure. Okay, so right there, do you notice the all or nothing thinking in that? If I'm not perfect, I'm a failure. Is that true? It's so not true, right? So that's that dichotomous thinking again, that if I'm not perfect, I'm a failure. Or things like, I won't get as much done. I'm going to become lazy. The truth is none of these things actually happen. And here is what is so ironic. Perfectionism is actually problematic in that way too high of standards actually make us less productive and less effective. Most of us who work through this part of us and then make the changes find that it actually, I definitely found this, it actually increases our productivity and really, really enhances our quality of life. This is so far beyond what you can imagine with this. And in regards to weight loss, working to change your perfectionistic thinking is really going to help you take the actions you need to take consistently daily in order to actually have the success and lose the weight for good. There are many ways to shift out of this perfectionistic mindset, but I want to give you just a couple of things that you can start to do to unwind that perfectionistic mentality. First one, start practicing. This will be a practice. Remember, these are skills, right? Our thought work stuff, these are skills. We have to practice them. Practice giving yourself credit, even for the smallest things. You went for a 5-minute walk after lunch? Awesome. You are amazing. You chose a salad instead of your usual fries once last week? I am really proud of myself for that. Look what I did. This training of your brain helps to provide you with positive feedback that is going to actually create the momentum and the willingness to keep going, to keep making other changes, and to stay consistent with it. It really is the small, doable daily acts that result in weight loss forever. Second one, remind yourself over and over that pretty good most of the time beats perfect every now and then. I'm going to say that again. Pretty good most of the time beats perfect every now and then. And I think a while back on my Instagram, I had posted this as a quote because it's so authentic and so aligns with me. And that Instagram account is at Heinen Counseling and Coaching. Sometimes I get that mixed up because it's a long one, but at Heinen Counseling and Coaching. If you're driving and can't write this down, you can go back and check it out. Pretty good most of the time beats perfect every now and then. Third one, a perfectionistic mindset is simply a habit of thought. Remind yourself of that. Perfectionistic mindset, you are not stuck with this forever. It is simply a habit of thought, and habits can be broken and healed and replaced with healthier habits that will get you to your goals for good. I would suggest on this one, practicing self-compassion and appreciation in your relationship and your talk with yourself. I hope from what I've talked about that you've been able to understand how that perfectionistic mindset in any or all areas of our life creates stalled weight loss, even weight gain, or an inability to lose weight, as well as how it stifles us in all areas of our life. I also hope you can take away a couple of things to try this week in your personal thought world to start to unwind the perfectionistic mentality and to get to a place of freedom where you will find getting results comes so much easier. As always, thank you for listening and sharing this space with me. I appreciate it so much as we go through this journey together, and we will talk soon. Did you know you can find a lot more help from me on my website? Go to heatherheinen.com. Heinen is spelled Heynen, and get in touch with questions on all things I offer, like online courses for overeating, weight loss, goal attainment, and also my coaching and counseling services.